Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is RPS at Home, and this is week 9, day 1. My name is Electa Barr, and I am a math teacher at Benford Middle School. So this week we will be working on SOL 6.9. It states that the student will determine congruence of segments, angles, and polygons. The materials you will need today are paper and pencil. So before we get started, we'd want to go over some vocabulary. The vocabulary that we will be going over this week is a polygon, congruent, symmetry, and line segment. A polygon is a closed figure composed of at least 3 line segments that do not cross. Congruent, we know, are figures that have the exact same size and the same shape. And we usually want to use this symbol to represent congruent. Symmetry is when one shape becomes exactly like the other and moves in some type of form, so turning, flipping, or sliding. And then lastly, we have line segment, which is the part of the line that connects the 2 points. It is also the shortest distance between 2 points as well. So now that we've kind of gone over the definition of what a polygon is, we're going to kind of give it an abstract meaning. So like we said a polygon is a figure that has at least 3 line segments that do not cross. When we're talking about a polygon, we have 2 different types. We have what we call a regular polygon and we have an irregular polygon. In this particular lesson this week, we're going to really focus on regular polygons. And so a regular polygon has a congruent size and congruent angle. So everything is the same. So to kind of give an example of what I mean between a regular and an irregular polygon, a regular polygon is what we have here. We have a figure where all sides are the same, okay? And in this particular example, we have a hexagon. And then the other type of polygon, which is an irregular polygon, here we have a trapezoid. In a trapezoid, we can tell that all sides of this trapezoid are not congruent. They are not the same size or the same angles. So this would be considered an irregular polygon. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to be doing some identifying regular polygons and their characteristics. So for our first example, here we have a rhombus. And what we know about a rhombus is that all sides are equal. So this would be considered a regular polygon. All sides are congruent and all angles are also congruent. Here for our next example, we have an arrow. And just by looking at this, we can tell that all of the sides of this arrow are not congruent. So this would be considered an irregular polygon. Our third example, we have an L-shaped figure. The sides of this L-shaped figure are not congruent. All sides are not the same. So this would be considered an irregular polygon. And then lastly, here we have a 5-sided shape. This would be considered a regular polygon, or also what we know it as a pentagon. So, like I stated earlier, we're going to go over some common polygons and their characteristics. What do we know about these particular shapes? So, for starters, like I said, a polygon has to be at least 3 sides. So, the one shape that we know has 3 sides is a triangle. Next, we have a square, 4-sided shape, or a quadrilateral. After a 4-sided shape, we have a 5-sided shape, which is a pentagon. We kind of looked at that one earlier. And then we have a hexagon, which is a six-sided shape. There's two things that I want you all to remember. One is that when we're talking about congruent figures, we have to remember that they have the exact same size and the exact same shape. And I have a question for you all that we're going to answer later on in this week's lesson. Is if a square is considered a quadrilateral, remember a quadrilateral is a four-sided shape. If a square is considered a quadrilateral as well as a regular polygon, are all quadrilaterals identified as regular polygons? Why or why not? And we're going to answer that later on in this lesson. So to continue with common polygons, we have a seven-sided shape, which is a heptagon, and we can see here that we have seven sides, and all sides are congruent. And to continue with this, the shapes are going to get a little bit more complex. So going on to a eight-sided shape, which is an octagon. Then we have a nine-sided shape, which we call a nonagon. And then lastly, we have a 10-sided shape, which is a decagon. So we could continue on and on and on. We can go with an 11-sided shape or a 12-sided shape. But I wanted you all to at least get identifying with the main common polygons that we know of. So let's do some independent practice. What we're going to be doing is we're going to identify each type of regular polygon. So if you need to pause the video and go back to some previous slides, please do. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at this table and you're going to figure out, is this shape a polygon? Why or why not? Is this shape a polygon? Why or why not? Same thing here and same thing here. And to clarify, when I say polygon, I mean regular polygon, not an irregular polygon. Or if it is an irregular polygon, describe why. Describe why you feel is that. So that's practice problem number 1. And then practice problem number 2. Here we have 10 various different shapes. We have 10 various different shapes. And what you're going to do here is you're going to identify what kind of shape it is. Is it a regular polygon? Is it a triangle? Is it a trapezoid? Is it a pentagon? And then what we'll do is we will come back with these solutions. So let's see how you did. With practice problem number 1, we have these 4 shapes, and here's our solution. So for our first shape, we can see that all sides are congruent, all angles are congruent. So that means it is a regular polygon. And we know that because, like we said, all sides are and angles are congruent, which makes it an octagon. Our next shape is a diamond, or if you were to turn it, it would be a square. We know that a square or a diamond have congruent sides and angles, which means it is a regular polygon. For our third figure, we have a right triangle, and we know it's a right triangle because there is a 90-degree angle here. And so all sides are not congruent, all angles are not congruent. So this is not a regular polygon. And then lastly, we have, once again, a 5-sided shape. All sides are congruent, all angles are congruent. This is a regular polygon, and it is a pentagon. So going into practice problem 2. So like I stated, you had 10 shapes, and we wanted to identify what shapes are what. So number one or shape A is a trapezoid. Shape B is a pentagon. Shape 3 is a right triangle. Shape 4, I'm sorry, shape D, excuse me, is a right triangle or equilateral triangle. I'm sorry. Shape E, number 5, is an arrow. Shape F, number 6, is a rhombus. Shape G, number 7, is an octagon. Shape H, number 8, is a double arrow. Shape 9 or shape I, number 9, is a hexagon. And then lastly, we have shape J, number 10, which is an isosceles triangle. And we'll speak a little bit more about isosceles triangle uh, into the week. So to end today's lesson, you have two assignments. One is an identifying polygons worksheet. So it's kind of like what we did a little earlier, where you're given the shape and you're going to identify, is it a regular polygon or is it an irregular polygon? And then your other assignment is to, as always, go to Dreambox to check for additional practice. All right, students, I will check with you tomorrow for lesson number 2.